Listen to better music and listen to music better. Welcome to True Tunes at 45 RPM, the short-form version of the ongoing conversation you'll hear on the True Tunes podcast and in the digital pages at truetunes.com. And now your host, John J. Thompson.
On this special 45 RPM episode of the podcast, we're giving you an advance listen to a conversation I recently recorded with John Pantano and our good friend Randy Layton of Alternative Records. John, along with his friend and musical compatriot Ron Salsbury, made music under the name JC Power Outlet as far back as the early 70s, and then as Pantano Salsbury when they signed with Larry Norman's solid rock label for their album hit The Switch. It's that album, long out of print, that Randy is currently restoring for a special Alternative Records reissue. We've seen what he can do with projects like this. His reissue of Robert Vaughn and the Shadows' Love and War and 2 Pound Planet's Songs from the Hydrogen Jukebox were stunning. This project, which as of the time of this recording is still trying to raise the necessary funds through an Indiegogo campaign, has never seen proper release on CD or digital. Bruce and I hope that this excerpt might introduce some newcomers to this worthy album and make sure everyone has a chance to back the campaign while there's time. So let's step into the virtual interview suite to hear a bit of that conversation.
Don't turn your back on Jesus. Don't turn your back on Jesus. Don't turn your back on Jesus. No, 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 no. Don't turn your back on Jesus. Don't turn your back on Jesus. Don't turn your back on Jesus. No, 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 no. Turn your back on John Birch cause you think he's too far right. You can turn your back on the SDS cause you think they like to fight. You can turn your back on Vietnam cause you just bring a pain and strife. But don't turn your back on Jesus till you give him a chance in your life. You can turn your back on Hitler cause you don't like the things he did. You can turn your back on Spiro cause you think he split his lid. You can turn your back on Speed and Ace cause every deadly is a knife. Don't turn your back on Jesus till you give the church your life. No, 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 don't you dare,
I met Ron in 71, and there weren't a whole lot of rock bands singing about Jesus in those days. Matter of fact, when Ron told me that's what he wanted to do, I said, "You can do that?" I didn't know that was an option. So I was playing in a rock band, and so was Ron in a different rock band. Ron got out of his band and he was doing pretty well. And then he decided he wanted to sing songs about Jesus and started doing that. And he got a couple of guys from his church that were singing. They were a drummer and bass player. And I just happened to know the drummer. And that's how we sort of connected. And I mean, he asked me to join up. It's the only Christian band I'd ever heard was Love Song. I didn't know you could do that. So I was very unaware of, I was just wanting to play rock and roll. I think I was 19 or 20 at the time. But I think Ron was one of the first guys I knew that had such a burning desire to write those kind of songs. So I thought, that sounds interesting. Let's do it. And I had just become a Christian probably 6 months or a year before that. I remember not really giving it much thought, but I kept seeing people talking about Jesus and talking about something that was going on. And the way I even found out about being a Christ follower was through my brother, younger brother was kind of a crazy kid, came home and started reading the Bible. And I thought, this guy's flipped. So, and then I paid attention. I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And then I started to follow along. And then, like I say, it wasn't too long after that I gave my life to the Lord at that time. And then someone said, you got to come and hear these guys. They're called Love Song. They're playing in Pasadena at this big house. So I said, I'll do it. And so that was the really early beginnings of that. But I think it was a direct response to my generation of guys just trying to find something. From being a hippie and a rock and roller to something a little more substantial. I do remember at one point being a musician playing around town in several different bands, including my own, that I felt it was I was just kind of really worn out with that. And it wasn't, like I say, just a short time after I kind of said, I don't want to do this anymore, mainly play music. But then I met Ron. Suddenly life kind of changed. So it was nice to have something that suddenly took on a personal meaning for my own life. And when Ron started the JC Powell and asked me to join up, it became a whole different world of, it felt like fire was spreading. I mean, with the Calvary Chapel people and everywhere we toured and played, it was always you could feel it. It was a spirit of God just kind of moving around my generation or within my generation.
I'm just a record on your stereo, a piece of plastic spinning round. You know I'll always keep it turning until your needle wears me down. Yes, I am gonna keep on rolling if you keep rocking to the sound. 'Cause I'm a record on your stereo, a piece of plastic spinning round. Take off my jacket, I got something up my sleeve. Turn me round at 33. Turn me up louder if you can't hear the words, 'cause I wanna tell you something if you listen to me. I'm just a record on your stereo, a piece of plastic spinning round. You know I'll always keep it turning until your needle wears me down. Yes, I am gonna keep on rolling if you keep rocking to the sound. 'Cause I'm a record on your stereo, a piece of plastic spinning round. I've got a writer, a producer, an engineer. I guess they made me what I am. I've got a singer, I've got a band, and there's some lyrics on my cover that might help you understand.
I think there was a real hunger for something. I think that's what the whole drug culture was about. I mean, I wasn't deeply into the drugs, but I had my moments where I felt that was the answer, maybe find something else. Everybody was looking for something else. It seemed that way, at least. And obviously the drugs and the quote hippie movement just wasn't enough. It was really kind of a disillusionment of what we were all trying to get in our souls. And when I became a Christian, started to see people around me with the same kind of attitude, thinking this is really something. It really made an impact. Not only were you saved, you had something to live for, and you felt like. And when it came to music, it took on a whole different meaning. It had substance. And then as we started to travel around and starting to see it really all over the country, you felt the same thing. It's hard to define it, but it was a very spirit-filled time. But it was a product of what I think the hippie subculture was, just searching for something. Now, of course, I like rock and roll. That's what I grew up with. I grew up playing Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff. And to me, it felt like it was a great avenue but it was more. It wasn't just to play rock and roll and put a label on. Oh, let's do some Jesus songs.
Why won't you answer when I call? Don't be afraid, I'll hold you up if you begin to fall. I will keep you covered with my love. If you keep your mind on me and think of what's above. Hold on to me, keep on reaching higher. You'll find your fallen dreams begin to come alive. I say hold on to me, keep on reaching higher. Ain't no devil gonna do you in or drag you through the fire. Hold on to me.
Back then, there wasn't a lot of acceptance also within the Christian. There was a lot of places they wouldn't have us play. And there were some places we couldn't bring our drums in. We did an acoustic set when they let us, if they allowed that. But a lot of times we were a little bit too heavy. Even though I don't think, looking back, we weren't as heavy as some of the bands now. But we were in those days considered a little bit too radical. As a matter of fact, I remember going to a specific place to play, and they canceled us while we were on our way. Back east, where in one of the colleges, they heard the term going around was, well, rock and roll is of the devil and it's satanic and these guys are this and that and the other. And so we went through a little bit of that. It wasn't traumatic, but it was out there. Yeah, our sound was probably a little bit radical for the day, but there were others doing it. We did a lot of colleges. Colleges were right down the right avenue for us. We played a lot of festivals and beaches. I have a fun memory of a beach thing that I think the Hells Angels were in the back behind this huge group of people on a beach. And we were playing our radical stuff, and you could see they were looking at us, and it was kind of scary. It's like, but then afterwards, one of the guys came up to me and I thought, oh, here we go. And he came up and he just said, brother, that was fantastic music. I love it. And he was just a real positive. We didn't do a lot of clubs, so we got a chance to play in some pretty great places that were different than the church setting.
I don't need a lot of money or fame, or to find a part in some social game. And I don't need to struggle to the top. And I don't need to put on a smile, the kind that only gets you through for a while. No, I don't need to be the things I'm not. I just need you, like a free bird needs the sky, to spread his wings and fly, to show to all who see that he is free.
I hate to use the term, be commercial, but we wanted to appeal to more than just the Christian market. And I think that Hit the Switch record, it still was difficult because you got to sort of appeal to both. And that was Larry's intent also. He wanted the records to stand on their own and not just be Christian sounding records, whatever that meant at the time. It's a lot different now. But I think there was a deliberate attempt to try to be a little more commercialized, for lack of a better word, and try to get something that sounded obviously professional, because a lot of times the early recordings, at least ours, were just not, they were kind of, it's a bad word to use, but they were kind of schlocky sounding. And Christian music was changing at that time too. It became very different after, in the 80s and 90s, it was a whole different thing. So at that time, we were trying to do something that was a little different. We didn't want to fit into just completely the same Christian mold. At the same time, we wanted to express our personal views, and I think the songs do that. And Larry was real good at bringing that sort of out of us, so keeping obviously a great Christian songs, but making them sound a little more like they should in a sense. And then Randy recently made them sound even better.
I have seen your kind before. You'll come knocking at my door. I'm one more soul you'd love to win, but there's no way I'd let you in. I just can't believe in you. The things you say just might be true, but I won't get caught touching you. The world don't need another fool.
I think by that point, I had decided that, anything I saw in rock was something I wanted to pick up, because there had been a history of everything that they had done being really high quality artistically. So I already knew who these two guys were, just because, of the JC Power outlet. So I was intrigued to see what that would sound like. And I really liked the record a lot. It seemed really contemporary. That seemed to fit in with the things I was listening to, whether that was the commercial scene or the Christian scene. And I kind of found myself almost, defending that over the years. I just remember one of the first things that really irritated me was some review where whoever wrote this said something like "Christian disco?" ? Here's Pantano Salsbury with, like Soul Seeker or something. Well, whatever song they were picking on. And I'm going, it's not disco, I know what disco is. It's like fun.
Soul Seeker, I run alone into the night. Soul Seeker, how can you know that you are right? You're a fast speaker, and I guess I'm just a bad man in your eyes.
So just over the years, it just, was another record that I just really enjoy. It just kind of fell into my lap back around 2018 that I had the opportunity to actually put it out because Charles the Solid Rock didn't really have much interest in doing anything with it. So asked if I would, and I said, well, sure. And then I kind of, sat on it for a while. But there are a lot of issues going on, health issues and things like that, and other projects I was working on. And I unfortunately kind of had to push it to the side. But more recently, I was thinking again, I really need to get this done or it's not going to get done. I really had a vision for how I wanted to do this. Once I got into the multi-tracks and things like that, again, like with the Robert Vaughn project, I realized there was a lot of gems there that people hadn't heard, either because of the way things were mixed or editing choices, or in a couple of cases, songs that just weren't used. And sonically, it was just terrific. One of the points I make is that side 2 of that record ran for 26 minutes. And if you know anything about vinyl mastering, that's really compressing a lot into one side. So this is going to be great because there's no compression. So everything just is going to sound great. It's going to look great. My artistic idea is to try to replicate the original album as much as possible, but we're also going to add a lot to that. I'll be writing, liner notes and telling a story, and there'll be photos and things that people haven't seen before. So in addition to all the things they haven't heard before, there'll be a lot of new visual aspects as well that I hope people will enjoy. I think over the years, John's been really good about letting me, run with it. And I've been very happy to send him, advanced mixes of things, and he's been happy with those. And so I feel like, okay, I'm doing okay. And it's important for me to want to do okay, not just for John, but also for Ron. It's really important for me to get it right for Ron's memory, because Ron left us a few years back due to a battle with leukemia. So I feel like there's a bit of weight there. There's a legacy that I want to really do right by.
Have you ever felt that it really won't be long? Have you ever felt there's just time to sing a song before the one we long to see, the king of history, comes back to reign?
I'm grateful that it happened the way it did, because to me, even my own church where I go to now, it seems like church now is a derivative of that. Like my church now has drums and guitars, and it's really somewhat contemporary, if you want to call it that. And I think that's a meaningful impact that it left in those days in the music world, which it affected people that became ministers, people that were doing music. To this day, it kind of represents a newer version of what was going on back then. For me, it was just obviously a very personal thing. That is, it changed my life. Music was such a part of my life. It was so fantastic to see that God could use anybody, and that God could do something on a spiritual level. And I can only attribute to that God had a movement at that time, and it developed into what it is today. I don't know where we'd be if that didn't happen. So I find it very very uplifting to look back on that. And really, not that many years ago, I thought, well, that was just a history that, even the music I did with Hit the Switch, I thought, well, that was long gone. It's long past. It was really kind of meaningless of the past. But now it's taken on a different life. I think the Christianity and the culture has evolved, and it's really great to see another generation of people doing the same kind of thing in a different way, obviously a newer way. But I feel pleased and proud that I got to be a part of something that was it was important. I guess an importance seems to last for generations. It's to me, it's still important, because before that, I don't remember much. I was too young probably to really be in tune with what was really happening. You just you get caught in the whirlwind of it. But when you see that it's changed your life in the long term, so where I'm at today, I feel like I'm looking back, I say, wow, look at all these steps that happened to bring me to this place and to bring the church to this place. I think it'd be so great to keep some of that going. I think the Jesus Revolution movie reminded me of a lot of stuff. It was kind of one viewpoint, but it reminded me of the importance of what happened back then and how so many people got pulled out of maybe a strange life and brought into something that was more clear and real. And to this day, I've talked to many guys that were still, many of our pastors, many of them were still involved in church music, many of them were still doing it, all because of what happened in those early years.
To be near you is a feeling of its own, close to you. I never stand alone, resting in your special care. That's where I long to be, near you. To be near you is to sing a lifelong song without you. The melody's gone, I need you more than any rhyme my heart could ever sing for you. And how each day has brought us near. With each passing year, I learn to love you more. And the promise that we share, you're always there to care. When I fall, your love makes me sure.
Again, depending on when you hear this, there may still be time for you to back the project and help it come to pass. You can find the link on the show notes page or just Google Pantano Salsbury Hit the Switch on Indiegogo and you will find it. And if you're hearing this after the campaign is over, well, sorry about that. Hopefully you can still find a copy of the 2023 reissue. It is worth the search. And this is just another reminder of why you should sign up on the email list here at True Tunes.
True Tunes at 45 RPM is produced by John J. Thompson and Bruce A. Brown for Gyroscope Productions and is intended for the private use of our listening audience. The contents are protected by US copyright law and are the intellectual property of Gyroscope Productions, with the exception of songs or clips that are from previously copywritten materials. Everything on this episode is used by permission or under fair use provisions. Thanks for listening. Cheers. We'll see you next time.